Hey folks, Nas here, another episode of Medieval Dynasty. This video is going to be a little bit different than what I normally do. It started when I was approached via a comment on my memorial tree location video from somebody named Mavadello. We're going to call him Martin because that is his name. Martin had commented asking if I would like to share his story about the memorial tree and how it came to be in Medieval Dynasty. Also sharing a small piece of the story with me in that comment. After reading, I of course told him I'd be honored to help him share his story. So I will be reading you his story here today. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to Martin for allowing me to share this with you. I also want to thank Toplitz and RenderCube for the awesome gesture of adding the memorial tree to this already wonderful game. And thank you to Forn from Forn's Gaming for the artwork of the tree you will actually see in this video today. Alrighty, let's begin. Many of you may already know about the tree that can't be chopped down, the memorial tree. You can find it along the road near a little stream south of Gustovia. There's not another tree like it in this valley, and you might have wondered, why is it here, or is it story related? This is the story of how the memorial tree came to be in Medieval Dynasty. We start this story with Martin and Lyda. Martin thought he might have been destined to be the eternal bachelor as a night watchman at a homeless shelter, and Lyda, who was a guest at the same shelter. The two of them met in 1996, and it was not love at first sight. Lyda was loud and often had arguments with others at the shelter. If we fast forward about 3 months, one evening while Martin was making his night watchman rounds, he spotted Lyda sitting outside the shelter talking to her friend who had received a love letter. Lyda was excited about her friend's new relationship, and as Martin was close enough to hear the two women talking, he overheard Lyda tell her friend, "I wish someone wrote me a love letter as well." Now, being a night watch is a pretty boring job. You do your rounds, prepare for the morning shift, and then it's hours of doing nothing. In the country Martin lives in, there was no internet to speak of in those days, and television was not broadcast 24/7 yet. So one evening, Martin thought he would try to bring a little sunshine into Lyda's world by writing her a love letter. Martin was trying to make light of a woman's situation, so the love letter was pretty cheesy and cliche. But regardless, this was the start of their wonderful relationship. Martin and Lyda were married in June of 1999 and had a great marriage, especially for the first 5 years. Then suddenly, within 6 months, Lyda had lost the ability to walk. The couple ended up spending a great deal of time in and out of hospitals and doctors' offices to try and find out what was happening with Lyda. What followed were years of home care. Besides her not being able to walk, she also would have trouble with her arms and hands. But through it all, they loved each other, and Martin happily took care of Lyda. Then, in 2016, Lyda had contracted a urinary tract infection. Normally not a real problem, but for Lyda, it ended up being much worse. And coming home was no longer an option. So Lyda ended up having to live at a nursing facility to receive the care she needed. Now, we fast forward to September 17th, 2020. This is the day Medieval Dynasty was released. With Martin being a fan of role-play games, he bought the game, as many of us had, and started playing. Then, on the very next day, September 18th, Martin received a call from the nursing home that Lyda was becoming ill. He was told Lyda had a fever, but not to worry. Now, this was during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, so visits to the nursing home were not possible, and Martin had not seen Lyda in months already. However, Martin felt she was in good hands, but naturally he worried about Lyda, and not being able to see her made him worry that much more. This is where Medieval Dynasty came into action, at least in Martin's life. Playing Medieval Dynasty gave Martin a few hours of peace and allowed him to ease his mind each day. Almost a month later, in mid-October, Martin received another call that Lyda had been transported to the hospital. Lyda's fever was still present and had become life-threatening. Fortunately, since Lyda's health issue was not COVID-related and she was being treated at a special ICU, Martin was allowed to visit Lyda. Sadly, because of the seriousness of her situation, Lyda's doctors needed to put Lyda into an induced coma where she was intubated. The doctors suspected her problems were a rare side effect from some of her medication, so the doctor began treatment to help Lyda recover and told Martin that 90% of the people that got this treatment had recovered and that he should not worry. As any nurturing husband would do, he worried very much each and every day, except when he would take a small portion of his time to play Medieval Dynasty. Medieval Dynasty helped Martin stay focused on things he needed to do when he was not visiting Lyda at the hospital. After about 3 days, the doctor decided that Lyda could be brought back out of her induced coma. Lyda was responding well. Her neurologist told Martin everything was looking good and for him not to worry and go home and get some rest. Just a couple of days after Lyda was brought out of her coma, Martin received a call in the middle of the night from the hospital asking him to come visit Lyda right away. During his cab ride to the hospital, all Martin could think was, "I am too late. I am not going to make it in time." Martin was able to make it to the hospital where he sat by Lyda's side while she was fighting for her life over the next 18 hours. During this time, Lyda had to be resuscitated about 8 times, with some lasting several minutes. But Lyda was a fighter and she came back every time. During those hours, Lyda was aware of Martin's presence and she knew her love was there with her. After talking with doctors, Martin learned that there was no way back for Lyda and she would not survive. Sadly, on the evening of October 19th, 2020, at the age of 57 years, Lyda indeed lost her fight. In the weeks following Lyda's passing, the only things that kept Martin's mind occupied were his kitty, Faith, and Medieval Dynasty. A few weeks later, Martin came across a Facebook post on the Dynasty Games group page. The game developers had posted a question to their players asking what we thought of their new game. Martin, showing his appreciation for how the game had impacted his current situation, commented on the post, telling a very brief story about Lyda and how the game was helping him through a very rough time in his life. The next day, to Martin's surprise, a representative for Toplitz and the development team had sent Martin a direct message through Facebook. They told Martin they were very touched by his story and wanted to do something special for him in remembrance of Lyda. They asked if he wanted a patch of flowers or an evergreen tree. All he had to do was tell them what he wanted and they would gladly add it to the game. Martin, after gaining his composure, began to talk to the team about what Lyda liked. He told them that Lyda loved nature and that she used to enjoy sitting by a stream amongst the trees and just listen to the sounds of nature flowing by. Martin also mentioned that whatever the devs decided to add had to also be fitting of the game, and this was how the memorial tree came to be in Medieval Dynasty. So when you pass by the tree, take a moment to spare a thought for Lyda and Martin. Maybe even place a few flowers at the base in the fall season. Also remember to take a break to hug your loved ones and tell them you love them, because you never know what tomorrow will bring. Lyda and Martin had 25 beautiful years together. Now Martin can visit a special place for Lyda within a game he loves to play. Perhaps the memorial tree will get an in-game lore one day. If by chance anyone from Toplitz or RenderCube do see this video, I would like to make a request. I think it would be a nice addition to have an NPC in the game that walks from the village of Tutki to the memorial tree each fall season, and sit by the creek for a spell and then place a basket of flowers at the base of the tree as he leaves to head home. I say Tutki because I had asked Martin what his favorite village was in the game, and he had told me Tutki. Even before it got its name, he liked this little village. This is the story of the memorial tree, or as I will always remember it, Lyda's tree. Thank you for joining me for this story, and a huge thank you to Martin, Toplitz, RenderCube, and Forns Gaming. Medieval Dynasty has a great community and has warmed my heart to be able to share this story with you. Take care and happy hunting.